there, Griff Hamlin here. Welcome and thanks for joining me today. In this video, similar to the last one, we're going to be talking about open tunings and slide again. Now in the last video, we talked about why we use open tunings with a slide and how it does make a lot of things an awful lot easier. But we covered the open D and sort of by extension the open E tunings. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the open G tuning. Now what's kind of cool is if you know any of, sort of string set, caged, chord voicing theory, I'll say, this makes a lot of sense because what we're going to basically do is just move everything by one string. So whereas before we had, starting with the low string, we had a root. Here we're going to have the fifth. And from the fifth string, we're going to have root, fifth, root, third, fifth. Just like where before we had root, third, fifth, root, third on the lower strings. Here we're just kind of shifting it, going from an E to an A shape, if that makes sense. So my low string, this is an open G. That's a G chord right there, right? So the low string is a D, which is the fifth. Now again, you can get to this by bringing your high E down or using that D, mine's a little off in fact, using that D there as sort of a tuning note. This instead of A is going to be G, the fifth string. My D string is going to stay the same, my G string is going to stay the same, my B string is going to stay the same. So these are all just like they would be in standard tuning. And then I've got a D up top. Okay, so you may remember in the last video, I had sort of this, standard idea, this really common idea that works really well over every chord, where I went down on the second string and up on the third string. Well, we can do the same thing here. We just shift everything by a string. So I'm going to go down on the first string, up on the second string, and on the third string. Let me show you how it goes. So again, I'm going down on the first string, roughly a whole step, come back up on the third string, or second string, sorry, down on the first, up on the second, land on the third. Over the 4 chord, again, which is the 5th fret, over the 5 chord, and there's a slight variation you might have heard me do on the way in. So what I'm doing there is I'm sort of starting at this, I'm doing second string, but sliding into the note from a half step below. Then because that's the third, that's the flat third to the third, right? Then the top string, then the second string again, and then the third string. And again, I'll leave that for you in tab so you can kind of see how it goes, but it looks a little funny when you see stuff written out in tab for slide. It just looks a little odd. There's a lot of lines and a lot of sliding around. And so, if you actually write out the actual notation, it looks a little funny, and it's really hard to convey exactly what we're doing in the slide in the notation. So hopefully that what I've just demonstrated kind of makes sense, because you'll want to use that as opposed to the tab. Now in the last video, we also had what I called the Elmore James lick, which was literally taken right from Elmore James, kind of the father of the blues. And it's sort of one of those quintessential slide licks that you really absolutely have to know. Well, in open G, in addition to the idea I just showed you, there's another really common idea. And this is something that we actually do a lot in standard tuning. So through the magic of video editing, I'm going to go to standard tuning real quick and show you. All right, so in C, we have this. And it's this 2-note sort of, double stop here where I've got the 12th fret on the 3rd string and the 11th fret on the 2nd. And those are the 5th and flatted 7th of the chord. And they sound really good together. And it's like right out of box too. Okay, so that's a great idea that we use a lot, very commonly when we're just playing in standard tuning. Let me show you how we can do it in open G. So I'm at the 5th fret is where my C would be. It's since this is open G, G, you know, G sharp A sharp B, C, it's just those top two strings. If I take from my C, take the top two strings and bring them up by 3 frets. Or from the 12th fret, the root, it's just up 3 frets away. And you can go down like that and sort of combine the two. Just go down a fret at a time. Or the 5 chord. So it's a great, cool thing that kind of works in open G tuning. Now, of course, you could do the same thing in open D or open E tuning, and it would be the second and third strings instead of the top 2 strings. But in open G, it just feels like it works better because it's those top 2 strings. And it's a little more straightforward. I think it's a little easier to see, okay? So so what we've gone through now is we have, you know, a couple of sort of really standard ideas, and these are things that work extremely well with open G tuning. Some of them sort of cross, you know, with the open D tuning or the open E tuning. And of course, similarly to how we went from open D to open E using a capo on the 2nd fret, I can do the same thing here. I can put a capo on it. It'll go to open A, just add 2 to everything, and it kind of works the same way, okay? Now, we've kind of been looking at everything from a chord perspective, right? We've talked about how you can, you know, go from the 12th fret is the 1 chord, the 5th fret is the 5 chord, the 7th fret is the 5 chord. You can sort of look at things as a scale, from a scale perspective. It would be kind of a topic for another video, but it can be done, because if, you know, again, thinking about the fact that you have the 5th and the 4th and the 3rd, and then we can go to the flat 3rd, and then you can go to a 2nd, and then a root. You can kind of work with it that way, you know. You can, knowing how that works, right? If you just kind of always know that you can go down a whole step. So from any of the top 3 string notes, I've got that's the 5th. I can go down a whole step and get the 4th. So that's going to be okay. Here's the 3rd, so if I go down a whole step, I'll get the 2nd, so that's okay. And in the middle would be the flat 3rd, which would be my sort of major versus minor. And then my root on the 3rd string can go down a whole step and get my flat 7th. So I have all those options. Even a half step there if I want the flat 5. So there's actually quite a few options, you know, along with that regular old stuff, I'll say. So, for example, if you were playing over a blues and you were just sort of using those 12th fret notes, and then the 4 chord comes along, you could just use the 11th fret instead of the 12th fret. It's going to change things a little bit, but it can be done. So if you want to approach more from a scalar perspective, you certainly can do that. And if you think about the fact that we almost always, you know, with a pentatonic scale, we almost always deal in these whole steps. There's a couple of instances, yeah, where we go up and we get we go up by 3 frets. But in general, we have a lot of this whole step movement. So you can play around a little bit with that. So hope you've enjoyed this, you know, with these last 2 videos, kind of sort of an introduction to these open tunings. There's a lot of really fun stuff, you know, if you just kind of play around with them. I've also got a course called 5 Easy Slide Solos you may want to check out. We have, you know, 2 solos in open D, 2 in open E, and 1 in open G. They range from, you know, shuffles to slow blues to even kind of just bluesy, gospel-y type stuff. It's a lot of fun, something I've really been enjoying, and I'm happy to pass it along because it is something that I really enjoy. So you can certainly check that out. I'll leave a link near this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you break out a guitar and tune it up to slide and have some fun with it. All right. So we'll talk to you real soon. Take care.